Now listen, last week, David Cecile, a man described by police as the most prolific and heartless romance frauder that they'd ever encountered, was jailed for 11 years.
Found guilty of 19 counts of fraud, Cecile had scammed 10 women out of more than £100,000 before he was finally brought to justice.
And two people who sadly know what it feels like to be a victim of this kind of deception are Cecile and Anna Rowe.
Both experienced betrayal on a massive level by someone they trusted and are calling for greater support for romance fraud victims and have joined forces to help others like them.
Well, they join us now to share their stories. Welcome, ladies, to the both of you. Cecilia, a lot of people will be familiar with you from The Tinder Swindler, the big hit that everyone was watching at the time. But for those that haven't seen the show, can you just explain what happened?
Yeah, I was on Tinder. That was the name.
There's the clue.
That's the clue. I was on Tinder, just moved to London, and I was just swiping back and forth, and then I matched up with this man that I thought looked really handsome, and his name was Cecile. We met very quickly here in London, actually, for a coffee, and he said he was the CEO of a big diamond company. He had so many people around him, business partners, personal assistants. I met his daughter, you know, like this was a proper, you know, like the life that he had online was the life that he had in real. Well, the first date he took me on a private jet, so that is kind of the infamous private jets.
And you did as many background checks as you could, right?
Yeah, as you do before. Like the Instagram was there, he was tagged as Cecile, like everything kind of checked out. But he had a bodyguard, and he said they'd been doing really well with the kind of job that he was doing, which was, you know, getting new deals and everything with this diamond company. And unfortunately, after I had become his girlfriend, really trusted him, he came into more problems where his competitors were coming up with death threats and wanted him to stop traveling around and stop doing his job. So he would lose
so
contracts.
Successful.
Yeah.
And this isn't just what he's telling you. There is proof, there is pictures, there is... I mean, the whole scenario is very real. It's not just created.
Like, I have still so many questions. He had an app on his phone that was showing, like, breaking into his apartment with CCTV. Like, it was just really, really weird. And after a while, like, things weren't getting better. You know, at the start, everything is going to be fine, but it wasn't. So he asked me if I had a credit card, because he was, his security team was refusing him to use his credit cards because they could see where he was in the world by the spend on his card.
And obviously, that's your partner, who you trust, that you've seen. You're like, absolutely, babe.
And he had a security team. Like, he was the CEO of a big diamond company. Everyone was listening to him. He was the boss. So I felt like, you know what's right to do in this situation. It's just going to be 2 weeks, going to give you my credit card under Cecilia Fjellhoy so you can travel safely. So the money was safety. A lot of people were asking, how did you give him so much money? But the money was never the issue here. It was the safety that he needed. But of course, things never went better. He created immersive theaters around me, said that the enemies had found him when we were in his apartment in Amsterdam. We had to hide. It was terrible. Like, his bodyguard was attacked in Copenhagen and they had found him, so I was properly scared. He made me make my Instagram private because they would find me.
You believed everything.
And I was working full-time at this time, so it is the rat wheel where there's so many messages, and I had to call the banks all the time to ask them to unblock the card because it was blocked, you know, when he was trying to use it all over the world. It was a mayhem when I look back on it. And after everything is said and done, I had taken over 9 loans and over £200,000 in debt at the time.
And simultaneously, this was happening to other women with him as well.
But I think I was the money pig at the time.
I do need to quickly say, though, obviously, from a legal point of view, we do have a response from Simon. Simon says, after the Netflix film was released, he did take to Instagram to say, I will share my side of the story when I've sorted out the best and most respectful way to tell it. That's all we've got to say there. But obviously, in your opinion and from what happened, you lost out on a lot of money and you were a victim of romance fraud. And you're not the only one. Anna, it's lovely to see you again. We've spoken before about this. Just for those who don't know, tell us a little bit about your experience.
So mine was a different kind of romance fraud. It was a non-financial one. So the intent behind mine, the motivation behind it was sexual, but also the power and control that he had over his victims. He obviously got a real kick out of that. But as with all romance fraud victims, the commonality is the process that we're put through. So it's very specific, a grooming process, love bombing, trauma bonding and coercive control. And it's that makes a victim compliant and complicit in what's going on in that relationship, whatever the intention behind that is.
And through the devastation that you've both experienced separately, you have come together to try and make a real difference for other people that may be facing this. So how did you meet?
I think after the Tinder swindler blew up, you know, I was approached by doing romance fraud webinars and like kind of get more of the word out about this type of crime. And I met Anna during one of the webinars. Yeah. And then I decided that I wanted to move permanently here to the UK. And I heard so much great stuff about Anna. Like she has catched the catfish online and had done amazing work. And I was like, I need to talk to this woman and figure out how maybe we can make something together. So we met up and our thoughts just aligned.
Yeah. And Anna, what is it that you two have now set up together?
So based on what I've been doing for 6 years, helping victims, which has been like a really brilliant pilot for us, we are now expanding out and been really fortunate to be asked to go and speak to police at fraud conferences. And we're educating people and changing the narrative around romance fraud, changing the stigma. We need to think about the language that's used that isolates victims further. Scammers isolate victims anyway, and society isolates victims further.
Well, you say that. I mean, when you went for help to police or anyone that could help, it was always like, there's nothing we can do. It's your boyfriend. Like, he's not really doing anything wrong from what we could really go for at the moment.
That's right. And when it is an in-person fraud, like Cecilia's and like mine, they consider it to be domestic. Yeah. Or that it needs to be a civil matter. And that's where the education comes in, not only for police, financial institutions, but also legal representatives as well.
But as well, like people real proper support. Like when both of this happened to us, we had nowhere to go. There's not one organisation, particular for romance fraud here in the UK. So that is what we want to be, so they know where to go. Because we have victims coming directly to us that are so ashamed. Love said.
Love
said.
Love said.
Love said. It's easy to remember. Love said.
So what advice would you give for people who think they might be in the same situation as you two found yourself in, and also for the friends and family of people who might be worried about somebody that they think might be in this situation? What are the warning signs? How can you help them?
I think, as we've seen in the Tinder swindler, is the love bombing, that things are getting serious very quickly, and you feel that you met your soulmate on so many levels, that they actually know you. Yeah. So be careful of that. And if you're friends and family, like, you have to take them on a journey. If you go there and directly and says you're being defrauded, and the stigma in society is that you're stupid if you're being there, you are not taking that in as much as you should. So you need to kind of, as Anna is doing, giving them those tiny bits of, you know, do reverse image searches, you know, check their profiles, you know, check their Instagram, what are the likes? Yeah, you can.
Yeah, it's sometimes with victims, the best way to try and help them come out of it is just planting seeds of doubt. Right. So then they tend to go and start checking for themselves, and it's then when they're discovering those things for themselves that they remember what's been said, and that helps to bring them out.
Because it's not always easy, is it, to tell somebody what you think of the person.
Especially if someone's in love.
And sometimes they cannot see it.
Love blind, I suppose, is the best way to put it.
It is being love blind.
It is being love blind. Yeah. Anna, we've spoken before, and obviously referencing your story, I mentioned the police. We did have a right of reply from the police, and Detective Inspector Richard Palmer of Kent Police said, whilst Kent Police sympathises with the woman's circumstances, as there was no suggestion he did so for financial gain, it did not constitute a romance fraud or any other criminal offence. All evidence was submitted to the Crown Prosecution Service, which ruled the case did not meet the evidential test for prosecution, and no charges were authorised. Obviously, we have to read that out. But your stories, they're fascinating, for want of a better term. And are you both happy now?
We're happy having found each other and the help that our stories have been giving people. And I think that is the thing. Like, it's one thing what happened to us, but we really, really want to create proper change and be there for people who feel hopeless. Yeah. So we're happy now. We're moving forward.
We are.
And we have big plans, so...
This is what survivors look like.
Yeah.
And we're turning it into a positive, hopefully, for many people.
Not all heroes wear capes. I see. Get a nice couple of capes afterwards.
Very, very
true. So lovely to see you this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.